Hello viewers, I'm in RoadCraft today. I haven't done any other videos on RoadCraft, but I did have a friend of mine asking me a little bit about RoadCraft. He's a big fan of Snowrunner, and he was curious how this game is similar and different to Snowrunner. And I figured I'll fire it up and I'll show a few of the similarities and differences. Now the graphics look fairly similar, and there is trucks in this game, just like there is in Snowrunner. However, unlike Snowrunner, when you have a section of map that's a problem, rather than just going around, you can actually improve your terrain a little bit. So I've got a truck that's stuck up in the mountains here. I was doing a freight delivery and it tipped over in a mud hole, and then I tipped my crane over trying to get it out. And the solution to that is we're going to make a little bit of a road for it. Now this little quarry that I'm in, it's got shallow spots that you can drive through. It's got deeper spots that you don't want to drive through. And I threw down a bunch of sand here and I graded it. And we're going to do that up the hill there to make things a little bit more accessible. Then we're going to take the crane truck in. We're going to try to put this truck back up on its wheels. And then finally we're going to try to do the cargo delivery with it. So we got a little bit of stuff going on here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into this vehicle. As you can see, the map is much more detailed in this than it is in Snowrunner. You can actually get a pretty good look at what the terrain is like, to the point where you can actually find loot that you can sell. For instance, I can zoom in here and I can see these tires here. These are actually worth money to pick them up. They're about 250 bucks each. So if I bring a truck in here with a crane and I load them up, I can get about $1,000 for these, just for picking up these tires and taking them out. Okay, so we're going to jump into this vehicle. We're going to take it up the hill, and we're going to dump some sand. And it doesn't have multiple gears like Snowrunner does. All you have is low gear and normal gear. It doesn't have damage like Snowrunner has. It doesn't have fuel like Snowrunner has. In the upper right hand corner of the screen, you can see that there's the resources that you have available to you. And these are stored in like your global resource that's available through all the bases. Now you do notice that there's a little purple icon that looks like a gas can. Those are actually recovery tokens, and there's a mobile base that you can use fuel to move your vehicles close to that base. You can still do recovery like you could in Snowrunner to normal bases, but that doesn't actually cost you anything. So we're going to turn around, we're going to back up and dump some sand down. And that's not quite what I was hoping to do. Sometimes the dumping isn't as controllable as you'd like. And I'd like to get a little bit closer into this truck if I can. Okay, now I'm going to have to go back down the hill to pick up more sand. But I can bring the loader up and I can start flattening this stuff. And you don't have to necessarily drive all the way back to a sand quarry. If I open up the map here and I switch it to... There we go. I can see the radius of the sand quarry. And as long as I'm inside of this radius, it means that I can refill the truck with sand. It's basically just magic sand from the sky. But I'm not within that radius now, so I got to drive back down the hill. And I think while I go down there, I'm also going to grab the loader, and I'm going to start flattening it out a little bit. And of course, you do have an interior view. And I'm just out of the radius there. Whoops. Okay, so now I can refill. A lot of players have a bit of an issue with this. But honestly, do you really want to be spending that much time driving across the map for sand when you can have issues with the dumping and drop more than you wanted? Okay, so I'll park here. I'll go to the map, I'll switch to the loader. And this is also a little weird, is that it's transport mode, what they call marching mode, has the blade way up in the air like that, which you would never do in a real machine, because it'd make it too top heavy. Okay, and here's my ridiculous pile of sand. So we switch it into sand flattening mode. And this part's all automatic. Okay, that's not ideal. My cargo fell out of the truck. Normally, if you capsize a vehicle, it'll stay packed, unlike Snowrunner. And I'm doing multiple passes here to kind of spread this stuff out a little bit more. And I think what I'm going to do is just back this out of the way, and then I'm going to go get the crane truck. And that's still down in the quarry here. And for Snowrunner players, this should look like a very familiar vehicle. Now, the one other thing about this is you don't reconfigure your trucks in this game. This particular truck has a crane on it. And you can't take the crane off and put on a cargo bed or anything like that. You can't put a crane onto a truck that didn't come with a crane. It's basically just how you bought it. Now, some of the trucks are purchased and some of them are rewarded. The paint job on that dumper right there is my company colors. So anything that color I've actually purchased. And anything with other oddball colors is referred to as the rusty version. And those are awarded for completing various missions and stuff like that. Although the refurbished version with my company colors on it have slightly better specs in them as well. There is no upgrades available to the trucks. What you got is what its capabilities are. Now, the last time I did this, I was trying to reach too far and ended up tipping the truck, so I'm going to back it in this time. And sand is far more stable and durable than you would think it would be. And this is where I screwed up and tipped my train over last time, so I want to try to avoid doing that again. Okay, this is annoying. The thing wants to roll away on me. I think I'm going to try and load it with this. So let's go put the anchors out. Cranes are also far more powerful in this game than they are in Snowrunner. There is no auto loading in this. Unlike Snowrunner, everything you load has to be done this way. Yeah, it's not perfectly balanced, but I'm going to go with it. Okay, so it's dropped down. Now, there's also no path like there was in Snowrunner. So you end up having to refer to your map far more often. But unlike Snowrunner, you can put down markers that are visible to anyone in the game if you're playing co-op. One of my scout vehicles that was previously left here. And I'm pretty sure it's just down this road, but I want to make sure. Substation, that's where I gotta drop it off. So keep following the road. And the driving tends to be much less intense than Snowrunner. You're not always driving through mud holes and rocks and bad terrain and stuff like that. Ideally, you're trying to fix the roads so that you're not having to deal with that kind of stuff. Although if you've only got single deliveries, and a lot of times it's not worth coming in here and trying to repair this. And because this is one of the few cargo trucks with a crane, it's kind of my go-to for a lot of stuff. It's obviously not quite as practical as some of the bigger trucks in Snowrunner, but cargo delivery is not a huge part of the game either. It's just one of the various features that it has. And there is stuff like repairing pipes, building bridges. Okay, so let's drop this off. We unstrap our cargo. Switch into crane mode. And with the deliveries, as soon as it turns green like that, you can basically just detach the load and it auto-completes. And that got me some XP, some cash, and one step closer to finishing the map.
Right. If we're going to get this drilling equipment out, we'll need a reliable form of transport. I'm thinking the railway. All you need to do is clear out the cargo that's lying around, then get the juice flowing again.
Okay, so it looks like the substation is active now. Not exactly sure what those are. Various locations to visit, but it looks like it's going to be awkward to get up there. And I can go into my objectives here and I can find out what she's talking about. Clear the area of objects. Okay, so I can leave my vehicle running there and I could just jump into this thing.
Now I'm going to look away, so why don't you go ahead and use that crane, since you were so good with it last time. Not that I was watching.
Power failure. Okay, so what's that going to do for me? Infrastructure, electricity. So I need to connect electricity from the power substation here to there. That looks like it's going to be an awkward trip. But not necessarily impossible. Okay, so what I'm probably going to do, and you can lay down these markers here, I'll show you how those work. I'll place a marker. Let's see, connect that. Active source to this facility. So we can choose our marker type, and I'll do blue for these power markers. So it puts this little flag here, and I don't really want it there. I want it inside the marker. And then I'm going to do another one here. And figure out where I'm going to run the power trencher. Okay, so now all I have to do is get a cable layer to there, the power substation, and then run it through the bush. Now to do that, I have my vehicle okay, have not put that out, so I'm going to have to go to one of my bases in order to deploy it. Not the lakeside base, that's not very close. And I haven't even completely exposed this map. Mountain base. Sadly enough, I think that's probably the closest base that I got to get me there. Okay, so I'm gonna need to get this crane out of the way. And then I gotta figure out if the most practical way... Nope. Easy to get to. So I go to the base. And... I want to deploy that. And I think I'm just going to drive it from here. I'm mulled over picking or getting a truck and carrying it there, but this is probably going to be quicker. Oh my gosh, what's going on with my textures? I think I'm going to have to come back to this, restart the game and come back to it, because that looks awful. So, yeah, pick up on the next episode.